Howdy, folks. I'm Dear Brian,
I'm Dear Amber.
and here's some Reddit. So today we decided that we would do some filters here, just so that we could celebrate the Christmas spirit a little bit. So we have some glowy noses here and some antlers, if you can see them.
Yeah, the antlers kind of fade in and out, but you got them.
So let us know what you think of these. We'll be doing some more Christmas ones. Swap up the hats for some other things here on the occasion. So let's get started. So our first letter is titled, Am I a jerk for being ungrateful of the cake that my boyfriend made me? I'm a 33-year-old female and I've been dating a man, Alex, a 34-year-old male for almost 3 years. Alex has a 13-year-old daughter from a previous marriage that he has full custody of. When we met Alex, he was doing very well. He made 6 figures and he had a decent house in a fine neighborhood. I had a slightly lower paying job. Almost a year and a half ago, his job had to cut some employees, and he was one of them. He had to take on a job and earn much less than he had before. I moved into their house 5 months ago. Since I moved in, I've helped with a lot of the bills, usually half or more of them. Yesterday was my birthday. I wanted to celebrate at a nice restaurant near us. However, it was closed. There was another one a little closer to us, although it was a little more expensive. I suggested that we go there for my birthday to Alex, and he said that he couldn't afford to pay for dinner there, and if we went, we would need to split the bill in half. I was a little upset, but he said he would make something himself. The cake I wanted, admittedly, was somewhat expensive. I pointed it out to him, and he said again that he didn't think he could afford it with Christmas coming up, and we'd just have to go halvesies if I wanted it. I told him I wasn't paying for a cake for my own birthday, and he said he would see what he could do. Well, yesterday came and he made a dinner and it was quite good, better than most meals we eat, although not quite as good as what it would have been at a restaurant. However, when he brought the cake out, it was just something he had made himself. He said he was sorry he couldn't afford a nicer cake, but he had made this one and his daughter had helped. I pretended to enjoy it, but after I told him I was hoping for a slightly nicer cake. He said he had tried his best and couldn't spend the money that he had set aside for bills on the cake. I guess his daughter had heard because now she's also saying that I made her upset after she helped make it. He kept saying that I should apologize to her and say that I really liked it. Am I the jerk?
Yes.
So, what do you think about this one here?
Like, OP just doesn't seem to understand that her partner no longer has the means that he once had,
Yeah.
and, like, doesn't seem to want to adjust to it. Like, I understand not wanting to pay for stuff on your birthday, but if it's too expensive for your partner, then you kind of have to pay for it.
Well, and that's just it. Is like she really wants some nicer stuff, and I mean, if the possessions are the most important thing for her in this case, then I mean, I guess maybe she should find another relationship.
Right, exactly. Like if all she wants is if she wants to be lavish with expensive gifts, this is not the relationship for her. Like it sounds like he tried his best. He made her a nice dinner and he made her a cake and all
Hmm.
she can do about it is complain. And like that's even if it was like not a very good cake, like if he tried his best, like it sounds like it just wasn't fancy enough. She wants something
Fancier.
nicer.
She
Yeah.
wanted one of those $200 cakes.
Probably like and that's like it sounds like he's really having a hard time paying the bills as is. And
Yeah.
so, like, her expecting him to, like, break the bank over her birthday is a very selfish way of thinking
And it
things.
also sounds like she makes a decent amount of money.
Right. And
It
so she
sounds.
can,
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, and so she could afford to buy herself nice things.
Yeah. I mean, I do understand where she's been helping out with the bills and stuff like that around the house. That's certainly very generous, but I mean, she has to understand that he has a budget and he can't blow all of his budget on her. I mean, that's just the reality of the world.
Although, I mean, I would rather have Brian's cooking than restaurant cooking most any day. Brian is an amazing cook. I love his food. And he has made me not like restaurants anymore.
Amber's like, it always tells me that I ruined restaurants for her.
I also eat fast food because like fast food is just like salt and it's good, but like pretty much we don't really have nice restaurants, but any of the nicer restaurants, it's like, well, Brian could make that better. Our next story is, am I the jerk for giving the PS5 my husband bought to my nephew? I'm a 35-year-old woman and my husband is 37. I discovered the other day he had bought a PS5 as a gift for himself, but the thing is, he used my money to do so without my permission, using a portion of my emergency savings that he had access to in case of, an emergency.
But this was an
No,
emergency. PS5s are an emergency.
which I do not believe being able to get your hands on a new video game console classifies as. This led to a huge argument, and I took the console away and reboxed it up. I debated on returning it to the shop for the money, but I know my sister has been struggling to find one for my 13-year-old nephew for over a year. So instead, I wrapped it up and took it round to hers and put it under the tree, and I quietly explained what had happened. My sister then gave me the money for it. My husband went ballistic, shouting and demanding that I go get it back, which I of course refused to do, telling him as it had been bought with my money, it was my choice what happened to it. He is now sulking and refusing to talk to me and acting like a huge child. Edit. For anyone curious about our money situation and why I'm so angry, we each put half of our salary into a communal fund for the house, bills, groceries, etc. The other half is ours to play with as we want. My husband always blows through his and never saves a penny. Half of my expendable money goes into savings for emergencies as I'm more realistic. Second edit. Stating here because of the comments, he refused to pay me back as it was an emergency. Third edit. I have emptied the emergency account that he has access to and put it all in my personal account that he does not have access to, including the money I got from my sister for the PS5.
What do you mean, OP? Why isn't this an emergency? This is short. There are surely no greater emergencies than acquiring PS5s.
Yeah, definitely I would not count
Life
this as not an
or
emergency.
death.
Nope. I think Opie's 100% not the jerk here. I mean, the dude literally just stole her money and was like, but it's an emergency. I needed to play video games.
But you don't understand, Amber. It was an emergency.
No, it wasn't.
I don't know what was going through his head here. Like, she sets aside, half of her play money, for this money that could be using for herself as an emergency fund. That's at least what it sounds like.
Yeah.
And he doesn't contribute at all to this emergency fund. Maybe, just maybe, if he had contributed like that amount of money to the emergency fund, he might be able to be like, well, I contributed X number of dollars to the emergency fund, so I'm just using my money from the emergency fund.
Yeah, but this is basically just her money she's putting for an emergency.
Yeah.
And he has like fun money to play with. He just blows through it all too fast too. So
yeah, I mean, he needs to save up and spend his money on the things that he wants, and not blow through all his money. That's at least what I think.
Yeah, agreed.
And I think OP made the right decision here. Taking away his access to that emergency fund, I think, was the prudent thing to do.
Right, because he clearly doesn't understand what constitutes an emergency, and there's no telling what he would spend it again probably if he had access. So
yeah, he would do it again. He'd go and buy another PS5.
You might very well.
Yeah.
Just try and hide it somehow.
Yeah, I would be very careful with that. All right, our next letter is titled, Am I a jerk for telling my husband that if he wants his spoiled brat of a daughter to come over for Christmas, he can cook? My husband Rob and I married later in life, and each one of us have a daughter from a previous relationship. I'm going to refer to my stepdaughter as Maggie, and to be 100% honest, I would not have ever chosen marrying Rob if Maggie had been underage. She is extremely difficult. I blame Rob and his ex for a lot of it, but some of it seems to go beyond his control. She has never worked a day in her life, she was never held accountable for being a mean girl in school, and she, even as an adult, throws temper tantrums. I have seen her throw herself to the ground and cry until she cannot breathe. Her husband responds by treating her like an actual toddler, rocking, which is very weird. She's 35 now and has 2 kids, but they are always with the nanny, and she seems unaware of her privilege. She is unhealthily obsessed with her husband, and Rob calls during the day despite him still working full time. and demands attention. She just doesn't know what to do with herself when her husband is at work. I'm not trying to be some wicked stepmother, but this woman is annoying. Last Christmas, I made her a homemade sweater and she loved it. She picked the colors and design. And she found out my daughter had the same one in a different color and cried and accused me of wanting to humiliate her. She constantly is smug about what her husband buys her and tries to imply that my daughter is poor despite my son in law making excellent money. When anyone else is getting attention, she bounces around, clings to her husband, or causes some scene to put the attention back on her. In the past, I asked her to help me in the kitchen, and she threw a fit, despite liking to cook, because she didn't want to be in the kitchen with me, my daughter, my sister, and my niece, because she thinks that we talk bad about her, which I think really translates into that she made a fool of herself trying to upstage my daughter at her wedding, and my family witnessed that. Anyway, she normally does Christmas at her house. I don't go because I want to spend Christmas with my daughter and because Maggie is a lot to deal with. Maggie isn't hosting this year because of a minor surgery, ruptured breast implant, and she doesn't want to do all that cooking, which is fine, but Rob wants me to host this year and invited both of our daughters. He cites that my daughter just had the baby and shouldn't have to cook either. I was going to go to her house and cook. I said I didn't really feel like spending Christmas with Maggie because of her behavior, but my daughter should relax, which is impossible with Maggie bouncing off the walls and talking a mile a minute. He accused me of not liking his daughter. I said if he wants to host Maggie and her husband, he can cook. He can't. And I will go to my daughter's like planned. He thinks I'm being unfair because it's Christmas and she is his only blood family, and he feels I would be angry if he did the same thing with my daughter. Edit for all the people asking what Maggie did at the wedding. She wore a very over the top dress, which was so beaded and sparkly, she even was uncomfortable at some point due to it being scratchy, and made a joke about how my daughter isn't in love and like only 1% of people can actually experience love and we aren't deep enough. She threw a fit about that she was going to pass out because it was hot and demanded food. It was kind of warm, but she has no health issues that should make it so that she needs the cake that moment or will die. She complained about food, complained about my daughter getting attention. Her husband got drunk and was kissing all over her, and she ended up the night loudly announcing that her parents didn't love her enough. All right, well, that was quite the story, eh?
Yes, I'm gonna go with OP is not the jerk here. Like, it's important when you have minor children to try in a household, like if you're trying to co-parent minor children, to try and bring them together,
Yeah,
even if they're difficult. Like blended families have a lot of difficulties sometimes, if the transitions aren't very smooth.
yeah.
Uh, but she is a full-grown adult, and it sounds like she's just really spoiled and privileged, and like she doesn't do anything really to
Yeah, well, I mean, she doesn't seem to do anything to help herself. And my
yeah.
question here on this post is, I know that OP says she's healthy, but has she ever had a evaluation? That's what
Yeah.
I want to know, because this doesn't seem like regular, average, everyday spoiled. This seems like some very peculiar qualities, and I'm wondering if there's something deeper going on here.
Yeah, I think that's a good point to suggest that she get an evaluation in
Yeah.
case there is something deeper going on, and
Mm-hmm.
that way whether she's just insufferable or not, cuz some people are insufferable, but some people, their brains are just wired differently, and if they are not receiving the proper accommodations, it can be really hard for them. So,
Yeah, if she does have something where she does need accommodations, or even can work with a therapist to help improve her disposition, so to speak, then that might go a long way towards helping her be a more tolerable individual. I just feel bad for OP in this situation because they're kind of in a rock and a hard place.
yeah, I agree. And also why can't her husband cook? If you want, I think she made a perfectly reasonable suggestion. Like, well, if you want to host her, you can cook. Like, if he doesn't need to know how to cook already, like, he can learn, he can get takeout catered. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there's all kinds of options he has, but making OP cook a dinner and, that just is too far. I mean, it sounds like OP's daughter just had a baby. She needs a break. And so, no matter what, probably OP coming to her house and cooking for her is the best option
Yeah,
for her.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
our last story is. Am I the jerk for bringing my own food on a family dinner at my in-laws' house? I've been with my husband for 4 years and we had an elopement over the summer. My in laws are very traditional and they didn't want to invite me to their house for an event or dinner unless we were married. So for 4 years, I've never been invited to family dinners, whether it's birthdays, holidays, anything really. I was only allowed to visit for a casual hangout with them, but not be part of the official gatherings. I didn't like that, and neither did my husband, but they're very traditional. There's been a lot of conflict about this because my husband chose to spend holidays with me for the past 2 years, and since my in laws didn't allow me in their house, we spent the holidays either with my family or our friends. Now that we are married, although not through a traditional wedding, in laws weren't happy about it, but we are legally married, so there's not much they can say anyway. They've started inviting me on their family gatherings. Since we got married, there had not been any, and the first was a few days ago at my father in law's birthday dinner. I'm a vegetarian. While I still eat dairy, I don't eat meat. My husband told my mother in law if she could prepare some vegetarian options for me as well, and it doesn't have to be something difficult, even some beans or a salad I would be fine with. My mother in law refused and said the main dish is steak. She refused to make a simple salad with tomato and lettuce. I told my husband that I'll have no choice but to prepare my own food to eat. So I brought my own food, and my in laws got mad at me and called me disrespectful. My mother in law said that I didn't even bother appreciating her cooking and insulted me for my vegetarian choices. My husband told them to knock it off and that they're being unreasonable, but my in laws, including my sister in law, who's not as traditional as them, told me that bringing my own food to eat at another house is disrespectful no matter the circumstances. Am I the jerk? No.
What in the world did we just read here?
Yeah.
Like, where does like, I understand you as a vegetarian didn't try my meat dish.
Right. It sounds like she just made steak. Like she wouldn't make a salad. Like so they didn't have like any vegetables. It sounds like it was just steak made to like spite OP. Oh, he
You
did
have nothing you can eat. Nothing.
like again and like if she didn't want to make extra food, then OP bring her own. Like like I'm a vegetarian, and sometimes we'll like when we do my family gatherings, we'll bring a dish for me and my siblings
Yeah.
because there's not usually a lot of vegetarian options.
And usually, like, in family gatherings, I mean, there's those are a lot like potlucks anyways, so
Yeah.
it tends to be that people will bring food anyhow to kind of like lighten the load on, so one person isn't doing all the preparation.
And it sounds like OP, like it sounds like the in-laws just don't like OP,
Yeah.
and she's destined to lose no matter what. Because if she had come and not eat the steak, then they would be like,
Well, you
"You're
didn't
rude for
try.
shunning our food." Like, there's just no winning here.
No, I mean, I think that it really showed when they weren't invited to anything to begin with and they had to be married first. Who does this? This is such a weird caveat.
I know, like we were going to things with like our families within like a month of dating. Like it wasn't a strange thing. Like our
Yeah.
families just kind of like, oh, okay, like we're bringing this new person along. It's cool.
And your family loves me.
My family does love Brian. They took to him immediately. He's the type of person that like everybody loves. So like my family just like, okay, we're cool with this dude.
Yeah. Well, they're very nice people.
Well, I'm glad you think so.
So, yeah, I think that this is like I really have a hard time with OP being in the wrong here. Like, I don't think that they're in the wrong. I certainly don't think that they did anything that would constitute as like a faux pas. I think that, they said they weren't going to make food, and so OP tried to do the most civil thing, which was bring their own meal so that they wouldn't have to be starved the entire time.
Exactly. Like OP didn't pressure or anything like that. Just like, okay, I'll bring my own food. Like if it's really that much of a hardship for the mother-in-law to make a salad, then like, okay, OP's got it. She made her food.
Yeah.
Like,
But bravo to the husband for being like trying to put a stop to it like immediately. I think that he did a good job with that.
yeah, he certainly did a better job than a lot of the husbands we see on here. Although I do think he needs to have firmer boundaries with them in the future that like
He may have not realized it was going to be that bad.
that's true.
Like, this is the first family gathering that she's been at, and I mean, he stood up for her immediately and told them to cut it out. And it sounds like he's, been going to like her family gatherings and like that just to like appease the whole situation. So I don't know. Like, we'll have to see. Maybe there will be more posts in the future.
But yeah, I mean, definitely, it's important for Opie to have support in this because there's nothing she did that's wrong. Like, you can't force someone to eat the food you make if it violates their, dietary restrictions and personal beliefs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah. All right, folks, that's all the time we have for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, consider giving us a like. And if you didn't, consider giving us a dislike. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Bye.